All right, so in this tutorial, I'm going to cover 3 examples of different shirts and how I would go about designing them. Now, we're going to use Photoshop in this tutorial to design them, and just like anything, it doesn't matter if you're using Canva or Photoshop, you're going to want the custom dimensions to be 45 by 5400 pixels. That's going to be the best ratio for a t-shirt so that you can obviously integrate it into Printful, and obviously it's going to look the best on the shirt, okay? It's going to look like this, and obviously this is going to be the main part of the t-shirt, and then we're simply just going to start designing, right? So we have 3 examples here. It's a very simple one. I'm not for everyone. Another relatively simple one, just night putting with kind of like a little green right there. And then that's a horrible idea, ... with what time question mark, and the what time is in a different kind of writing, okay? Now, these are all 3 very, very simple designs, but you'll notice that as you start designing things, and that's not to say that you can't design like complicated designs with a bunch of stuff on them, but there's 2 drawbacks to that. A, it takes a lot more time, and B, you'd be surprised that like simple designs typically sell. So that's not like a rule of thumb. You don't have to stay with simple designs. You can go complicated if you want. But surprisingly enough, the simpler the design, typically, the better it actually sells. So what you basically want to do is you want to replicate this, okay? So I'm going to come up with I'm not for everybody, literally just like this. This is a very simple one. So we're going to go into Photoshop and we're just going to start typing this. And there's a million Photoshop tutorials on YouTube if you need to know the basics. Obviously, like this is going to be like your drag, your move tool, your text tool right here. You can obviously import an image. It's very, very simple. So I have some text there. We're going to drag it out so you can kind of see it. It is in white right now. If I wanted to change the color of the text, you just make sure that you have this selected and then you change the color over here. So it's selected like that. If I wanted it like red, it could be red. If I wanted it black, it could be black. But since we're going to make this a transparent background, the way that you do that, obviously we want it to be white, which is tough to see there. And then we're going to click OK. Now, if you wanted this background to be transparent, what you want to do is you want to click on the background layer. You'll see over here, this is your layers tab. So if we wanted this behind the background, we drag that down and bring the background up there. Now, this is locked, obviously, but you could drag that above if you want to. I'll show you that here in a second when we drag layers. Now, if you wanted the background transparent, because remember, we don't want to put this on a white background. We want this to be able to be put on a red shirt or a black shirt or a blue shirt, as well as, you know, a gray shirt, just like the example here on Amazon for this example, right? So the way that we do that is we click this visible tab right here, and you want to make the background transparent by unclicking that. And now you'll see it's transparent. So when you drag it over, not only can you see it a little bit better, but now you can basically print the design on any shirt, not just white, okay? So that's one of the benefits of using Photoshop. So I'm just going to change the text here to say what does it say again? It was I'm not for everyone. And mine's going to be slightly different. I'm going to make it a little bit bigger. I'm not. Copy that, and then just literally just, you know, Control C, or you can right click, copy it if you wanted to, or come up here into edit, copy, and then edit, paste, or you can just use the shortcut keys like Control C, Control V to copy, paste, obviously. Now right here, you'll see now that we have both of these, so let's change this really fast just so you can tell the difference between the layers. So if we wanted this, like let's say we have a picture design. Let me actually just import a random picture. So this has nothing to do with the picture right here, but if we drag that picture over, and for whatever reason we wanted the text to be in front of the picture, as you can see here, the picture is in front of the text. What we would then do is we just drag that layer above the picture, and whatever is the top here is going to be in the front. Now, this is a bad example because you can't really tell because it's white on white, but that's just something to keep in mind. That's the basics of using Photoshop over here. Whatever is on top as you drag the layers up is what's going to be in the front, just like it would be with anything else, okay? So that's how you're going to use that. Now, I'm not for, make the design slightly different. I'm not for, and we'll put it in the middle. Everyone. And there we go. It's really that simple. And that's basically what the design is, except their design is kind of 1, 2, 3, or 1, 2, 1 with like everyone in a different thing. I'm going to put I'm not up top and 4 in the middle, kind of keep it centered. But then the bottom one we'll change the color of, and we'll make sure that there's a white box behind it. So let's come down here. the way that we can do that is we can just draw a box here with this tool. So the rectangular marquee tool, literally draw a box around it. And we're going to make a new layer there, obviously. So now that we drew that line, we're going to make sure to create a new layer so that it can be its own thing. We're not just dragging randomly. So new layer. Okay, now you'll see it created a new layer there. So now what we're going to do is we're going to fill that layer. So we're going to right click, fill it. And we want that to be white, I believe, right? Yeah, white. So we're going to fill it with white. And there we go. Now we're going to deselect it by clicking this and clicking off of it. And then going to edit, or sorry, where is it? Select, deselect. And now you'll see that, okay, now the white block is blocking that letter, okay? So we're going to drag everyone above that. And now you can't see everyone yet because it's clearly still white. But if we change it, you can kind of see it there. If we change it now to, I think it's black. And now instead of white, I'm actually going to make that black. And that's how that's going to look, okay? So I'm not for everyone and everyone is different. And then we're going to simply export it as a PNG so that you can overlay it on something else. And we'll go to downloads. I'm not for everyone t-shirt design. Save it as something that you're going to remember. Also, you're also going to want to put all these in a folder of all your designs so you can draw on them later for whatever reason. If this is successful and you want to put it on a mug as well, or you want to put it on a sweatshirt as well, then you're going to want to make sure that your designs are saved so you don't have to go back and create them all again. You can reuse them, okay? It's really smart to do that. Also, if you need for reference to give to Etsy at a later date, that also might be smart, all right? So now basically what you do is just like I showed you in the tutorials, you'd then go back and you'd input that design into Printful, and that's how you'd approach that, all right? So let's go through another example right here. That's a horrible idea. So if we come to Photoshop and we just simply change this, we're gonna go, that's a horrible idea. What time? That's a horrible, oh, that's a horrible. I'm gonna make this a little bit lower now. That's a, select it, paste the new one, and then we'll change the text. That's a horrible idea. Actually put idea at the bottom. Horrible. And that's pretty close there. So that's a horrible idea. ... What time in cursive. Now, another little trick here, and again, you can learn a lot more for free on YouTube with like Photoshop. I'm just giving you the basics here, but if you wanted to group all these so you can move them all, just use this drag tool right here. So the move tool, drag them all down so that it's grouped, and then you can just drag them around as a whole. And then if you wanted to obviously, you know, deselect it, then you just come down and you click each one, right? So if I want to drag them all, I click them all, and then I can move them wherever. All right, so that's a horrible idea. We can make them all a little bit bigger. And then we'll come down and we'll say maybe what time in black. So let's create a new text now. What time, question mark. And it'll be like this big. And we'll make this black for reference, just so it's slightly different. Now, if we want to change the text right here, you're going to come over, make sure that you have that layer selected here, right? And then you're just going to change the text character right here, right? So it's right now Bebes Nue. So it's right now this one right here, which I don't even know how to pronounce, Bebes Nue. And so you're just going to look for a cursive one. And it shows you examples. Like if you just hover over it, it'll show you what it looks like. And that's how you change the text. So let's find one that we like. That one's decent, but we can find a better one. Let's try to find a better example of cursive. No, that's not good. No, that's not terrible. Let's go with this for now, just for the sake of not wasting your time. But I'd probably try to find a better one because this is a little tough to read. But for the sake of just kind of showing you an example and not going through to trying to find the perfect one right now, that's what we'd kind of do, right? So you could even keep it the same color since in this example, it's all white. Or you could change it slightly and make it a color. Or you could even do something along the lines of like the last one that we did, which was to just create a new layer with a background, right? And then as soon as it's selected, you're gonna right click, new layer. You can name the layer if you want to, obviously. And then you're just gonna make sure that you have the layer selected, right click, oops. And then edit fillet. And you can make it white, you can make it black, unselect that, and then go to select and deselect it so that you can then drag that. Now we're gonna just move what time in front of that. And if you wanted to do something like that, you could do that as well, right? So just keep that in mind. That's how we basically replicate those, okay? So now we just did that one. We did the I'm not for everyone. So let's create one more. This one's gonna be night putting. Let me just save this. That's a horrible idea. What time t-shirt design. Again, you're gonna wanna save them all and then put them all in a folder. And now we're just gonna come back and create this one. So it's gonna be very similar, right? So night putting. Night. And then just like you would anywhere to get like a design, you could go to somewhere like Pexels, which is royalty free, so that you can download pretty much any picture. You can go somewhere like Pixabay is another good one. Or you could just go to Google. Just be careful, obviously, with copyright images on Google. So obviously you're going to want to stay away from any like brands or anything like that because you don't want to get any intellectual property or copyright things on Etsy. Too many of those will get your store shut down. So just play it safe. Obviously, if you're creating an image or something like this, for example, like this green right here, that's not going to be copyright. So you can find something like that. But I'm just going to say green PNG picture. Or maybe putting green PNG picture. But if you want to play it safe, I would use royalty-free images unless you're pretty sure that obviously that's not something that's going to be copyright. So let's find one that's kind of transparent. All right, so I found one. So now basically what you want to do is I found one, but I need to take the image out of it, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come to the quick selection tool, or you could also use this if you wanted to draw on how to cut an image out. So if I wanted to select this because it's not a PNG with a clear background, there's two ways that I can go about selecting it, right? I can use the quick selection tool and then make sure that I have the plus. That's going to input everything in there. And then it's going to quick select that. And then I can quick select that. And you'll see it selected it pretty fast. And then I can just drag that around and it should be pretty solid. So now if I drag the picture over and I drag that in, it should have selected it pretty well. Not the best example of an image, but for the sake of not wasting your time, that's what we'll roll with. Night putting, something similar like that. And then maybe we'd put it on different colors, but not black, and we'd make these all black. And go with something like that. So it's very similar, but slightly different. And that's basically how you can approach that. Now, another way that you could do that, just to kind of show you, is if for whatever reason, this is a bad example of one because let me find a different picture where I can show you. So for example, if we wanted to cut this phone out of this image and this wasn't an actual PNG, what you could do, like I said before, is you could use the quick select tool, which as long as you have the plus going, is going to select it pretty quickly, as you can see here. But there are places that it didn't select, right? Or what you could do is you could use this draw tool right here, it's the pen tool, and then literally trace lines and cut it out manually like that, right? And then if you wanted to get, just maximize it a little bit to make sure that you're cutting around the edges, and you literally just draw where you want it to cut. And then you would just draw, obviously this isn't the best, like that's a little shaky right there, but just for the sake of showing you, and you could just literally draw around the thing. like so. And again, I would maximize it and make sure that it was a little bit better than this. This is a terrible example, but just for the sake of not wasting your time and showing you. So then when you're finally complete, what you want to do is you want to come over here to selection and then make the selection, and you'll see it feathers like that and it's finally selected. And then you can come back to the move tool and then move that around. And you'll see it kind of cut out the edge of that. Not the best example, but that's another way that you can obviously cut things out of images if you need to. So two ways, like I said, is the pen tool or the quick selection tool. Again, this is kind of just a crash course on how to replicate with Photoshop. There's a lot that you can do with Photoshop, but this is not a Photoshop course. So you really just need to know the basics because like I said, the simpler the design, the better it's going to sell anyway. You don't really need to get too complicated with it, but you can learn a lot of Photoshop. There's so many great tutorials on YouTube that you can watch if you want to add tools to your arsenal.